Good morning, everyone. Today we will start with the next topic. Okay. Here we'll be discussing about the different transforms which are commonly used in digital signal processing and are also helpful in biomedical signal processing. Okay. So what happens over here is that we have a this Fourier series. We all know that this is the basic and the preliminary transform, uh, and this forms the basis of most of the DSP transformations. Okay, so after the Fourier series, we have Fourier transform, and this is one of the most, or you can say, the most versatile transform. It is the most versatile transform. Okay, so you will find that this transform has been used since long in many of the fields, starting from mathematics to say signal processing to seismic measurements to say analysis of the temperatures in the environmental domain and many other things, right? So, but even though it has been there since a long time, till now it is one of the most commonly used transform which is used in any of the signal processing domains. Okay, so it is also used in the biomedical signal processing stuffs, right? So we will be looking what these two means. Then we'll be going into discrete time Fourier series. So the first two, the Fourier series and the Fourier transform, these two are for the continuous time signals. These two are for the continuous time signals. Now, when we talk about digital signals, the digital signals are discrete time signals. So, for the digital signals, we can use this third discrete time Fourier series and the fourth discrete time Fourier transform. Okay. Now there was some problem with the discrete time Fourier transform. Hence, the fifth one, the discrete Fourier transform, it has been proposed. Okay, and in for the analysis of the digital signals using Fourier transform, basically we use the discrete Fourier transform. So in digital domain, we use mainly discrete time Fourier series, discrete time Fourier transform, and discrete Fourier transform. In our class, we will be looking in depth into this discrete Fourier transform. Okay, we'll be discussing about the first four, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Fourier series, Fourier transform, discrete time Fourier series, and discrete time Fourier transform. But we will be we will be talking in details about the discrete Fourier transform. Okay. Now then we will be talking about Laplace transform. It would be in brief. Okay. Understanding of the Laplace transform is important because when we go for designing digital systems, then we need to have an understanding of the analog systems. Okay, because when we try to design the digital systems, most of the information what we try to extract, it is from the analog system, and then we try to model a digital system. What do you mean by model? Model is nothing but a mathematical relationship. Okay, so when you try to model a system, a digital system, we try to get the information from the analog domain. Okay, So in the analog domain, we usually when we design this analog systems, we usually talk about this Laplace transform. So this Laplace transform helps us in designing our systems in the analog domain. So we will be discussing in brief about the Laplace transform, and once we have discussed that and understood what are the designing criterias of the analog systems in the Laplace domain, then we will enter into Z transform. Okay, then we will enter into Z transform. Obviously, we will be dealing with the Z transform in depth. Okay, because we will be needing this for the designing of the IIR and FIR filters. Okay, so this IIR and FIR filters, they are nothing but digital systems, type of digital systems or digital filters. Okay, so considering this, let's start with the chapter. The first topic is your Fourier series. Okay, what does the Fourier series says? Fourier series says, suppose if we have a signal which is periodic, then for some positive value of t, this equation xt equals to x of t plus t for all t, it would be true. Okay, and from yeah, okay, so for a periodic signal, this is the case. Now what about the discrete time signals? For the discrete time signals, we have discussed that xn equals to xn plus capital N, where capital is the time period in the discrete domain and n is the time axis in the discrete domain. Okay, so that will be useful. This equation, it will be useful in discrete time Fourier series. Okay, or DTFT or DFT. DTFT is discrete time Fourier transform and DFT is discrete Fourier transform, which we have discussed previously. These three: discrete time Fourier series, DTFS, then discrete time Fourier transform, DTFT, and discrete Fourier transform, DFT. Okay, so when we talk about this Fourier series, we considered that there are two types of basic periodic signals. Okay, the first type of the basic periodic signal is the sinusoidal signal, where we have sinusoidal signals like cos omega naught t and sin omega naught t. Okay, so we all know that cos and sine waves, they are periodic in nature. Similarly, the complex exponentials, they are also periodic in nature, and these complex exponentials, they are given by xt equals to e to the power j omega naught t. Okay, e to the power j omega naught t. Now we all know, if we represent it in the form of j theta, then it is given by cos theta plus j sin theta, right? So what are these? This is a sinusoidal signal, this is a sinusoidal signal, and we are doing complex additions. Okay, so basically the complex exponential, it is nothing but the addition of sinusoidal signals, because both cos and sine, both are regarded as the sinusoidal signals. Okay, so cos signal and the sine signal, both are regarded as the sinusoidal signal. Okay, So both these, in complex exponential, we have sinusoidal signals which have been added in the complex domain. Okay. Here, in both these equations, the sinusoidal signal and the complex exponential equations, omega naught is basically the fundamental frequency, because all periodic signals, they have a particular frequency. So suppose if you have a 10 hertz signal and 20 hertz signal, so for a 10 hertz signal, the basic or the fundamental frequency will be 10 hertz. For a 20 hertz signal, the fundamental frequency would be 20 hertz. Okay. Now, if you add the 10 hertz and the 20 hertz signal, you will be getting another signal which would be again periodic in nature, but if you analyze the signal, you will see that you are having two fundamental frequencies, one at 10 hertz and the other at 20 hertz. Okay. And fundamental period, it is given by t equals to 2 pi by omega naught. Okay. Now, what does the Fourier series says? Fourier series says any periodic signal xt, it is a linear combination of harmonically related complex exponentials. Okay. This is the important thing. Linear combination of harmonically related complex exponentials. So what does it say? Any periodic signal xt, it can be represented as the linear summation. This sign, it is a sign of linear combination. Then from k equals to minus infinity to plus infinity. Okay. Ak, which is basically a coefficient, multiplied by exponentials, complex exponentials, e to the power j k omega naught t. Now this value of k, it varies from minus infinity to plus infinity. So you can see that xt is nothing but a linear combination of harmonically related complex exponentials. Okay, and this is the equation, right? Now, what is the significance of this equation? What it is trying to tell us? This equation which we saw, if we try to simplify that equation, we get to this equation. Okay. Over here, if you see our xt, it is given by A0, which is the DC component of a given signal. A0 is the DC component of a given signal plus summation of k equals to 1 to infinity 2 of b dash k cos k omega t minus c double dash k sin k omega naught t. So what it is trying to say is that any periodic signals can be represented in a form where we have a series of sinusoidal signals okay, so where we have a series of sinusoidal signals, right? That means suppose this negative is basically due to the negative coefficient, so we can basically put up any value, say a plus say a minus b, we can write it down as a of minus of B. So it basically defines the what you call sign of the coefficient. So over here we can say that it is plus of this thing minus C double dash K sine of K omega naught T. Okay. So basically it is also an addition. So the takeaway over here is that Fourier series suggests that any periodic signal can be represented as the combination of sinusoidal signals. And how many sinusoidal signals? If you see, it varies from 1 to infinite. So you need infinite number of sinusoidal signals to reconstruct a periodic signal. Okay. Do you have any problem? No? Okay. I'm moving forward then. Okay. Let us take up this example. Okay. So this is a pulsed wave signal. Or it is also regarded as square pulse. And what is it? It is also a periodic signal. See, there is a pulse. After a certain period, you again have a pulse. And previously also, before coming to this pulse, we had another pulse. Okay. So we are having pulsed signal or square pulse signal, which is a periodic signal. Now, suppose this is a 10 Hertz square wave pulse. Now, if I put up a 10 Hertz sine wave signal, or 10 Hertz sinusoid signal, in this case it is the cos wave. So 10 Hertz cos signal, so it would look like this. So can you correlate between this pulse signal and this sinusoidal signal? You see that there is no correlation. There is no correlation. We cannot, if you are given with only the this cosine signal, we will not be able to say what kind of signal we are trying to synthesize, right? Now, suppose successively we start adding this harmonics of this signal. So what will happen? In this case, if you see the successive addition, it is giving us a indication that we are trying to find out something, or we are trying to synthesize something which is having a flat top and a flat bottom, but still we are not convinced that what kind of signal it is. Okay. Again, when we tried increasing the number of harmonics, again you see the number of ripples over here has reduced, but it has not gone zero. Okay. Similarly, the number of ripples in this stop band or the near zero this thing, it is there, ripples are there, so it is not completely zero. Still we can predict that we are trying to synthesize a square signal, but still it is not close to that of the ideal pulse signal, right? So it is not close to the ideal pulse signal. Then what we will do? We will then again add a series of other harmonics, higher order harmonics. Now when we go for this higher order harmonics, you see we are getting a maximally flat region both in the higher value and the lower value regions. Okay, but still if you see, we have not got a perfect flat top or a perfect flat bottom. Okay, so these imperfections, these sinusoidal stuffs which are available at the top and the bottom, they are regarded as the ripples. They are regarded as the ripples. And if you look carefully, these ripples, they are having higher magnitude at the discontinuities. Discontinuity means where you are coming from top to bottom or you are going from bottom to top. Okay, so these ripples, they are having higher discontinuities, and this higher values at the discontinuities. Now these higher values, imperfections, they are regarded as Gibbs phenomena. This is regarded as the Gibbs phenomenon. Now, why does this ripple happens? Why you are getting these ripples? If you go back, let's go back to the original equation. Over here, what we are telling? We are telling k is varying from minus infinity to plus infinity, right? We are getting k values from minus infinity to infinity. That means the number of exponentials what we will be using, these complex exponential signals which are also a periodic signal. So the number of these complex exponentials which will be using, which will be used to recreate or the synthesize the periodic signal is infinite. That means we need an infinite number of sinusoidal signals to recreate a given periodic signal xt. Am I clear? So if you have any periodic signal, if you have to recreate that, you have to add up an infinite number of sinusoidal signals to get that periodic signal. Okay, but when we are synthetically trying to make this pulse signal, what we are doing basically, we are adding harmonics. But can a digital system handle infinite number of sinusoids? No, it is not possible. Okay, so we cannot handle infinite number of sinusoids. So over here we are usually restricted to say 65 number of harmonics, or maybe if you are still wanting to go for a more perfect signal, maybe you can go up to 100, but you will need a very high computational efficiency, right? So even then you will be getting some ripples over there, and these ripples are because you are using finite number of signals. You are using only finite number of signals. But what was our condition of the Fourier series? Our condition was that we will be using infinite number of sinusoids. Okay, we will be using infinite number of sinusoids. Now that was our condition. Now since we are not meeting this condition, hence we are getting these ripples. Okay, so it is trying to be perfect, but it is not perfect. Okay. Now this is another periodic signal, sawtooth wave signal. You have the fundamental harmonics of this signal. It is here. That's very good. You have a second harmonic, you have a third harmonic. Now, if you see, the amplitude of the first harmonic is different than the amplitude of the second harmonic and the third harmonic. So, as we are going towards higher harmonics, the amplitude is getting different. So, even though I am saying we are using infinite number of sinusoids, the amplitude of the signal will vary. Amplitude of the harmonics, not the signal, the amplitude of the harmonics will be varying. Secondly, if you look into these signals, all the three signals, say this is say, this thing. Now see, you are at top over here, here the top is here, so there is a difference. Okay, here your top is again prior to the top what you have achieved in the fundamental frequency. Okay, so what does this say? This says that even though we are talking about sinusoidal signals, we are talking about sinusoidal signals of the sinusoidal signals having different amplitudes. Second point. Third point is the frequency or the phase of the corresponding harmonics is also important in shaping any periodic signal. In the previous one, we did not face this problem. Here, if you could add up only sinusoids of different amplitude, we could get these pulse signals. But in the second case, where the system is bit complex, we can see that phase spectrum of the harmonics, it plays an important role in shaping the periodic signals. Okay, the phase spectrum of the harmonics, it plays an important role in shaping the periodic signals. Okay, now if you see, this is a sinusoidal signal, this is a sinusoidal signal. Here there is a 90-degree phase shift, and we can see over here this top, it has moved by 90 degrees, right? Now getting to the Fourier transform, so can you guys tell me what is the basic difference between Fourier series and Fourier transform? Why
So
you need,
Fourier transform
pardon,
for non-periodic.
pardon,
So Fourier transform can be for non-periodic signal also.
not can also be for
Non-periodic signal.
non-periodic signal. Okay, how many of you agree? How many of you agree? We have seen Fourier series is for periodic signal. Okay, and someone is saying that it is also for aperiodic. I feel he wants to say that FT is for both aperiodic and periodic, right?
Yes, sir.
So how many of you agree?
Yes,
Is
sir,
it
I
only
agree,
for
sir.
periodic, or it is only for aperiodic? What?
Both.
It is for periodic and this one is for both or only a
No,
periodic.
sir. FT is periodic, sir.
FT is for
Periodic.
FT is for periodic
Yes, sir.
and
Non-periodic.
uh-huh,
Periodic. Only for periodic.
only for a periodic. Okay. So we are having three answers. One is saying Fourier series is periodic and so let's put up in this phrase Fourier series, Fourier transform periodic and both aperiodic plus periodic. One is saying both periodic and third person is saying periodic and aperiodic. Okay. So anyone else? The first person who told that Fourier series is for periodic and Fourier transform is for both aperiodic and periodic, it is correct. Okay, this is correct. So why we say this? The thing is that if you look into the definition over here or the assumption, not the definition, the assumption, we start with a non-periodic signal may be assumed as a limiting case of periodic signal. So what we are telling? We are telling that we will consider a non-periodic or aperiodic, both are same, non-periodic or aperiodic signal. So what we are telling here, we are making an assumption that aperiodic signals they are a limiting case of periodic signals. They are a case of periodic signals. And using this assumption, we start with Fourier series. We start with Fourier series and we end up to this equation Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform accordingly. Okay. So basically what we are telling that Fourier transform is for aperiodic signal, but for deriving this condition, what we are assuming? We are assuming that this aperiodic signal is basically a periodic signal, and we are starting with the equation of the Fourier series which is for the periodic signal, and then we are making some assumption, but the initial starting point is for the periodic signals, right? Hence it will also be applicable to the periodic signal, but later on over here during the course of uh, this derivation we have taken this into place that aperiodic signals they are also periodic signals. This information or this assumption gives us the power to utilize or to analyze the aperiodic signals using the Fourier transform. Okay, using the Fourier transform. Okay, hence Fourier transform is applicable for both periodic and aperiodic signals. In other way, if you want to say that I am having a sinusoidal signal, okay, like this, and it is continuing. So up to say time, say 1 second, it is periodic. Will it not be periodic when I increase this window to say infinity? Again, then it will be periodic. So there is no question that Fourier transform cannot be used for the periodic signals. Secondly, what we are considering over here, suppose you are having some signal like this which is going on, and say this is time infinity. Say for example, after this signal will again repeat itself, so like this, right? So the signal is repeating itself after every time period of capital T. So we are converting this aperiodic signal into a periodic signal, and taking that assumption, we are analyzing the aperiodic signals. Basically, both Fourier transform and Fourier series, they are for the periodic signal, but with this assumption, aperiodic signals can be assumed as the limiting case of the periodic signal. We are converting the aperiodic signal, or we are considering the aperiodic signal into a periodic signal. Okay. Now, if you look over here, we get x of j omega. It is equal to integral of minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power minus j k omega t dt. Okay. And the inverse Fourier transform, because the Fourier transform is applying a transform on the time domain signal and getting to the frequency domain signal. Okay. Whereas if we want to again come back to the time domain signal, we will be having this inverse Fourier transform. It is given by xt 1 by 2 pi integral of minus infinity to infinity x of j omega, which will now be used as the input, multiplied by e to the power j omega t d omega. Okay. So this is our inverse Fourier transform to get back to the time domain. Now this is the mechanics, this figure, this is the mechanics of the Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform relationship. Say if you have a signal ft, or if you consider xt, in our previous case we have considered xt, so you can think of this ft as the xt. So you have the ft, then what you do, you apply the Fourier transform over here onto the signal xt, and you get to the frequency domain x of omega. Okay. Now here in the x of omega, you again apply the inverse Fourier transform and you get to the xt. Now if you consider xt, you will be having some signals like this. Now if you do the Fourier transform, what you will be getting? What would be there in the y-axis? In Fourier transform, once you do the Fourier transform, what you get in the y-axis?
x of omega.
So x of j
X of
What is
omega.
x of omega? Here x
Omega
of t is
amplitude.
basically the amplitude.
Amplitude sir.
Here what you will get? Here also you will get the amplitude. See, this amplitude and this
yes, sir.
amplitude are same. And what will be the y and what will be the x-axis?
Omega.
so omega.
It would be the omega
Omega.
or the frequency component. Okay. So suppose
Yes.
this signal, it is made up of three components: 10 hertz, 20 hertz, and 30 hertz. So how we will get? What kind of signal we will be getting? We will be getting
The-
three peaks like this one at 10 hertz, 20 hertz, 30 hertz. Okay. If I would have only one, say at 20 hertz, I would have got only one peak at 20 hertz, and that would have been a sinusoidal wave. Okay. So from here we can see in the time domain we are having the amplitude variation with respect to time, whereas in the frequency domain we are getting the variation in the amplitude with respect to the frequencies, right? So there is an increase or decrease in the amplitude. If the amplitude of the 20 Hz signal is smaller, then the height will be smaller over here. So in that way we can analyze. So this is a very powerful tool. In XT we are not having any frequency information, right? But when we do the transform, we can see what are the frequency components which are present within the signal when we do the Fourier transform. Okay, and after you have done the analysis, you can again go back to the original time domain signal by applying the inverse Fourier transform. Once your job is finished, you can go back to the original one. Okay. One of the classical example over here is, suppose when we want to take any or acquire any signal, what happens is that we may have some noise. Say for example, I take an ECG signal like this, right? Now, over this signal, I may find that there is some sinusoidal wave which is riding over here. Now, if I want to have some information of this overriding signal onto the ECG signal, I just have to do the Fourier transform, and if this noise, it is of specific noise, say for example 50 hertz noise, apart from all the other frequencies, we will be getting a strong frequency component at 50 hertz. We will be directly able to know that this is the unwanted signal, or this component is the unwanted signal, and we need to eliminate this signal. So this is the power of Fourier transform. So it gives you an instant information what are the frequency components are present, and if it is outside the range of your desired frequency component, then you can say that yeah, this is, you can pinpoint this is the frequency component which is creating the problem, so I can eliminate this thing, and it can help you in designing a filter. Okay, it can help you in designing a filter, a suitable filter. Okay, so this is the power of Fourier transform, right? Now consider this first case. Say this is a signal, and this signal may be made periodic if we can repeat this component after every t0, both in the positive and the negative domains. Okay, so A is the non-periodic signal xt, and the second is the periodic signal formed by periodic extension of the xt. Okay. So in other terms, a periodic signal can be a non a an aperiodic signal can be converted into a periodic signal by performing periodic extension. Okay. Now this is a very unique diagram, and I personally like this diagram very much. Okay. What it says, previously we have talked about the LTI system, and we have talked that the LTI systems, they are linear systems, they are time invariant systems. Linear system means it will follow the rule of homogeneity, and time invariant means if I give a signal at this moment, it will generate, says, suppose I give an input x1 at this moment and I get an output of y1. Suppose tomorrow I come back and I give the same signal, I should get the same output. Okay. So if this is the case, then our system is a time invariant system. Suppose if I come tomorrow and if I give x1 and I get y2, then it is time varying system. All adaptive signal processing systems, they are time varying systems. Okay, let it be. So we have just discussed that xt, if we put an xt into an LTI system, we get yt. Now how do you get yt? How do you get yt? So to get an yt, prior information about the LTI system is needed. So how do you get that prior information? Suppose instead of giving xt, I use a special signal delta t, I use a special signal delta t. What is delta t? At t equals to 0, it will be having an amplitude of infinity but an area of 1. Okay. So when we give this signal, we'll be getting some output. We'll be getting some output. Now that output, when your delta t, when your xt is delta t, it is called ht. So this is impulse input, and correspondingly you get impulse response. Okay, correspondingly you get impulse response and it is given by ht. Okay, say for example, when you are in school, suppose you are a very good or a notorious boy, depends what type of boy you were, because every students are different. Some are very calm and some will be very aggressive in nature. Suppose one of your classmates was there and he pinged you. Okay. So what would be your reaction? If you're aggressive, your reaction will be aggressive. And if you are very calm, you will show some action, but it will be subsiding very quickly, right? So I would say that as a calm reaction. Okay. So what is this other person? Other person is your impulse input. And when I give this impulse input to the system, that means you so what is happening? Depending upon your properties, here you are the LTI system. You're getting my point? Here you are the LTI system. So depending upon your property, you will be generating some response which may be aggressive, which may be a calm reaction. Okay. So this input signal, it is allowing you to get the information about this, inherent information about this student. Okay. So this aggressive response or the calm reaction is the impulse response because it has been generated due to the impulse input. Okay. Now when I say that we have got the information about the LTI system, that means we have got the HT. Now if you give any input x of t, and if it is a linear time invariant system, then you will get an output of yt, which is equal to xt convolution of ht. Xt convolution of ht. Okay. But today we have seen that we can easily go to the frequency domain, right, by applying Fourier transform. That is good. So h of omega, again here we are applying this thing. Over here we are applying, we are getting y of omega. I don't know why this happens every time. This is x of omega, this is h of omega. Okay, now this convolution, it turns into multiplication. It turns into multiplication. So if you look over here, it is a multiplicative stuff. We are having x omega, h omega, then in the output we get y omega equal to x omega multiplied by h omega. Okay. So what it is saying is that convolution in the time domain is multiplication in the frequency domain and vice versa. That means if any of the operation you have convolution in the frequency domain, then it would become multiplication in the time domain. Okay. So because of this property, what happens? It becomes easier to calculate the multiplicative stuff, and then we perform the inverse Fourier transform. So suppose I am having this one, so what I will do, I will multiply h of omega and h of omega. So I would get y of omega. Then after I get the y of omega, I will apply inverse Fourier transform to get yt. and it will significantly reduce the computational burden on my processor. Okay. So this is what it is shown over here. So you are having h of t, you get x omega, then this h of t, if you are giving delta t as the input, you get h of t, and h of t, if you perform the Fourier transform, you get to the capital H omega over here, what I have shown, and then inversely you can perform the inverse Fourier transform and you can go to the ht. Okay, and when you are giving the delta t, you are getting the output as the delta ht. Okay, but when you are analyzing any given signal, you give the input as ht xt, and you already know the ht. Okay, so here you will be having the ht, and then you will be getting yt equals to xt convolution of ht. Okay, so other way of finding out this one, we can find out y of omega as x of omega multiplied by h of omega, right? Now once you get this one, you apply inverse Fourier transform and you get this yt. Okay, in yt you had to do a lot of convolution stuff, but in frequency domain you just do the multiplication and you get the signal. Okay, so it saves your life basically. Now next, coming to the Fourier analysis of the discrete time signals. Again, just like the continuous time Fourier series, we have xn equals to x of n plus n, where n is the fundamental period and all these things. Here we have seen analysis equation, which is the Fourier series for discrete Fourier series, and then we have the synthesis equation to get xn. Sorry, this is the synthesis here. This is the discrete Fourier series. So this is a discrete Fourier series. You have the synthesis equation, and here you can see we are again saying that our periodic signals, they are a linear combination of complex exponentials, right? Then discrete time Fourier transform. Here our time would be the discrete in nature. Okay, discrete time Fourier series. Here the time would be the discrete in nature, and sorry, discrete time Fourier transform. Yeah, discrete time Fourier transform. So here we start with DTFS, discrete time Fourier series, and again we get into this equation, discrete time Fourier transform, which is the forward transform, and inverse discrete time Fourier transform, which is the inverse transform. Now in the forward transform, you see x of e to the power j omega, it is a summation. However, in the inverse discrete time Fourier transform, it is integral. So can you tell me what is the disadvantage of this kind of system? Can anyone tell me? No? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Why? What is the disadvantage of the system? Any idea?
No, sir.
No one? Now the thing is that over here, if you want to implement this thing, because we have seen that discrete time signals, if we digitize it, which is also a discrete time signal, we can process the signals in the digital domain. Okay, but when you are putting the integral, can the digital systems will be able to handle the integral? The answer is no. Because when you put an integral, you are dealing with infinite number of signals. And this was the problem with discrete time Fourier transform. If you want to do the forward transform, it was quite okay. But if you had tried to do the inverse discrete time Fourier transform in a digital system, it would not work. Simply it would not work. Your digital system will hang, okay, because it is not designed to handle infinite number of signal components, okay. So hence there was a need to design a transform which can be handled by the computers or the digital systems, okay. So these are all the same things which we discussed in the continuous time domain. So I will just skip this part. Similar to the delta t, we are having delta n, then hn, then frequency in the discrete domain, it is given by h of omega, this omega, okay, and in analog we give it this omega, okay, and discrete time omega is represented by this ohm signal, okay, ohm symbol, and the rest of the things you see all are same. So because of the disadvantages what I just told you, we got into the discrete Fourier transform, okay. So I think time is over, and we'll be continuing with this class in the with this topic in the next class.